Hey everybody, welcome back to Radom Lifestyle. This is Matt. Sorry I've been away for a little while. Just taking care of. I have an 8-month-old that I'm taking care of, so he'll have his debut on the channel soon. So, anyways, found some intriguing information. The credit on this one goes to the Bearable Bull. CNN, Julia Childerley just interviewed the Office of the Comptroller Brian Brooks. For those of you who don't know who that is, don't worry about it. But the content of this interview is what's important. So take a listen.
Minutes of Brian Brooks letting you know what's about to go down.
The acting US Comptroller of the Currency joins us now. Brian, fantastic to have you with us. I'm really excited to have you on. You sort of have a 21st century view of what the banking sector should look like. And I said it's raising a few eyebrows. It's raising a few more. Give me a sense of what your vision is.
Well, Julia, thanks so much for having me. And these are really important questions to ask in a time like this. You know, this is a time when Americans are depending on their banking system more than they ever have before. When we made a decision collectively in this country to shut down the economy very broadly back in March, we depended on the banks to deliver benefit payments in the form of Paycheck Protection Program loans and checks sent from the Treasury Department. And the problem is we were sending those across 19th century banking rails. Many people said that it took days or sometimes weeks to receive their payments. And my vision is that we need to get to a place in this country where payments can be transmitted virtually instantaneously, where errors can be eliminated. And it turns out technology exists today that can help us do that. So we need to get there, I think, sooner rather than later.
You've talked about a new payments charter. What does that mean? And what is the technology that we have today that exists that circumvents, to your point, the 19th century rails that the train has been running on so far?
Well, it's really interesting, Julia. If you look at the payments business over the last 30 years, there was a time when all payments happened through the banking system. And in the last 10 or 15 years, with the rise of fintech, largely dominated by a bunch of Silicon Valley firms, it turns out that technologies exist, whether they're based on blockchain or other kinds of networks, that allow payments to go much faster. And as a result of that, what's happened in this country is that millions and millions of daily payments no longer are principally processed by banks. They're run by companies like PayPal and Stripe and Square. The question for the payments charter is, do we think it's a good thing or a bad thing that all of that activity is now happening outside the banking system, where the examiners who work in my agency can look at them and make sure that there's fraud being prevented and make sure consumers are protected? Or do we think it would be better for them to run entirely outside of regulation? I think the best solution, which you see in other parts of the world, including the UK today, is to have faster payments that are innovated by private companies but are supervised by federal watchdogs like us. That I think, is what the future looks like.
Now, ladies and
Okay, so that's pretty big news. Just seeing someone so high up talk about the payment space, knowing what Ripple and XRP are trying to do, what their vision is for the company, and just what I know about. I used to be in banking, so what I know about banking. Listen to this other piece of the interview too. It gets pretty interesting.
Some people will recognize this term, others won't, but it's the way right now that the system works, and the information, the money is passed between banks, and the last thing it is SWIFT. It's clunky, it's slow. Those outside of the industry, particularly in the fintech sector, know there are better options. Brian, is this the plan, to replace, improve on the existing infrastructure that SWIFT is at this moment?
Well, Julia, you make a great point that SWIFT is one of the most ironically named organizations in the world. The joke in my world is that if you wanted to move money from America to Australia, the fastest way to do that is to load it in a suitcase and put it on an airplane, which is a little bit crazy in the US, right? So to me, what has to happen is there are faster solutions, and they exist in other parts of the world. So the UK, Singapore, China, many of our global competitors have adopted real-time payments. In the US, that seems to be still years away unless we allow existing technologies to do the work for us. And I think that's very possible.
Brian, how quickly can you do this? How quickly can you achieve this, given, as we've discussed, there are existing resistant points, and they're pretty powerful in this country?
Well, they are, Julia, but in the world, there's nothing more powerful than markets, because markets represent what millions of consumers want every day. And so my job is not to build new payment rails. My job is to identify impediments that make it harder for people to get what they want and need. And at the OCC, we have an ability to do that. So among those include the questions of, should banks be allowed to participate in the cryptocurrency market at all? Should banks be allowed to connect to blockchains? Should we have central bank digital currencies, perhaps issued by private companies, but backed by bank deposits? I can identify what the impediments to that are and try and solve that so people can get what they want as they express through markets. I think that's very possible.
That was pretty interesting. And what I want to end the video today with is, now this is the actual commercial that Ripple is putting out and showing institutions that how they can help their business. So Ripple is ready ahead of the game. I mean, we're on the verge of mass adoption right now. If you're in the space, congratulations. You're probably gonna be fairly wealthy in the near future. So at any rate, check this out, and then I'll just end it with this. Okay, hang tight. Alright, my friends, tomorrow back with another video. Take care.